You won't believe this. Nia Harper sat quietly in the corner of her room, the sunlight streaming through her curtains casting a warm glow on her plush toys. To anyone outside, it might have seemed like a perfect afternoon in Maplewood, a peaceful suburban neighborhood where laughter echoed from the yards and parents tended to their gardens. But for Nia, the colors of her childhood were fading into shades of gray. At 12, Nia was on the cusp of adolescence, her mind buzzing with thoughts of school, friendships, and dreams yet to be realized. Yet, the air in her home felt heavy, suffocating. Her parents, loving but often distracted by their jobs and the demands of adult life, failed to see the storm brewing inside their daughter. They were consumed by their own responsibilities, unaware of the darker reality that Nia faced each day. "Mom, I'm home," she called out, her voice barely above a whisper, echoing down the empty hallway. No response came, just the sound of her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. She dropped her backpack at the door, its weight a reminder of the burdens she carried, both in school and at home. Sarah, the babysitter, was supposed to be there. Nia's parents had insisted on hiring help, believing it would ease their hectic schedules. But Sarah was not the warm, nurturing figure Nia had imagined. She was cold and dismissive, her laughter ringing with a sharpness that cut through the air. It had started subtly, snide remarks about Nia's clothes or the way she spoke. But as the days turned into weeks, Sarah's behavior morphed into something more sinister. As Nia sat on her bed, her hands fidgeting with the hem of her shirt, she thought back to the first day Sarah had come to their home. "What a cute little girl," Sarah had said with a forced smile that barely touched her eyes. Nia remembered how the compliment had made her feel special, but that fleeting moment of joy quickly vanished, replaced by an uneasy feeling that crept into her stomach. The first time Sarah had raised her voice, it had startled Nia. "Stop being such a baby," she had yelled after Nia accidentally spilled juice on the floor. "You're almost 13, act like it." The words echoed in Nia's mind, layering her insecurities with every encounter. What began as teasing had transformed into bullying, and now it felt like a shroud wrapped tightly around her, stifling her spirit. In school, Nia excelled. She loved math and science, often daydreaming of becoming an engineer, building bridges that connected people and places. But at home, she was haunted by the cruel remarks Sarah threw at her like daggers. Each jab chipped away at her confidence, leaving her feeling small and invisible. "Just hold on a little longer," she whispered to herself, a mantra she had repeated countless times. Maybe things would change. Maybe her parents would notice how she flinched at Sarah's every word, how her laughter had turned into a distant memory. But each day that passed without them noticing only deepened her isolation. When her parents finally arrived home, the familiar sounds of laughter and chatter filled the air, but they were oblivious to the darkness that lingered in Nia's heart. They had no idea about the secret that weighed her down, a secret she couldn't share even if she wanted to. That night, as Nia lay in bed, she stared at the ceiling, willing the tears to stay at bay. A part of her wanted to scream for help, to tell her parents the truth about Sarah. But fear twisted in her chest, silencing her voice. What if they didn't believe her? What if they thought she was overreacting? So, she tucked the truth away, deep inside her, hoping that tomorrow might be different. Little did she know, the storm was building, and soon, the truth would force its way to the surface, shaking her world to its core. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across Nia's bedroom as night fell over Maplewood. It was a Sunday evening, and the neighborhood buzzed with the sounds of families preparing for another week. Nia lay in bed, staring at the glow of her phone screen, scrolling through photos of her friends laughing, their smiles bright and carefree. A pang of envy washed over her, a reminder of the life she longed to lead, one filled with joy, not the dread that had become her reality. Monday mornings always carried an air of possibility. With the start of a new week, Nia hoped for a change. Perhaps today, Sarah would be kinder. Perhaps today, she could find a way to make her parents understand. As she dressed for school, she rehearsed her words in her mind, crafting the perfect script to reveal the truth about Sarah. The bus ride felt longer than usual. Nia sat quietly, her heart racing as she watched the trees blur past the window. She could see her friends laughing and joking, their carefree spirits a stark contrast to the anxiety building within her. By the time she reached school, her mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, battling between fear and the desperate need for help. In the hallways, the noise of chatter and laughter seemed to echo in her ears, amplifying her sense of isolation. Nia took a deep breath, forcing herself to smile as she passed her classmates. She exchanged quick hellos, but the warmth of their friendship felt distant, overshadowed by the weight of her secret. She wanted to confide in someone, anyone, but the fear of not being believed kept her silent. As the morning classes unfolded, Nia's focus waned. Each lecture felt like a blur, her mind drifting back to the turmoil of her home life. Math class, usually her favorite, was overshadowed by the thought of Sarah's voice cutting through her peace like glass. She wished she could simply fade into the background, invisible to the world, but fate had other plans. The lunch bell rang, pulling Nia from her thoughts. She joined her friends at their usual table, the laughter and teasing providing a brief respite from her worries. But as they chatted about their weekend plans, Nia felt a familiar knot tightening in her stomach, a reminder of the confrontation that awaited her when she returned home. "What's wrong, Nia?" her friend Ava asked, her brow furrowing in concern. "You seem a little off today." "Nothing, just tired," Nia replied, forcing a smile. The last thing she wanted was to draw attention to her struggles. But as she glanced around the table, she saw the concern etched on her friends' faces, their eyes searching for answers she couldn't provide. The rest of the day dragged on, each class feeling heavier than the last. By the time the final bell rang, a sense of dread settled in her chest. Nia trudged home, the weight of her secret pressing down on her shoulders. She opened the door to her house, and the familiar silence enveloped her like a thick fog. "Hi, Nia. How was school?" Sarah's voice cut through the silence, laced with a feigned cheerfulness that made Nia's skin crawl. "Fine," Nia mumbled, heading to her room without making eye contact. She didn't want to engage with Sarah, didn't want to invite another round of bullying into her life. But Sarah had other plans. "Nia, wait." Sarah called, her tone shifting to something more predatory. Nia hesitated, the hairs on the back of her neck prickling with unease. "What do you want?" Nia asked, forcing herself to sound brave. "You left your juice cup on the table again. What are you, a child?" Sarah taunted, stepping closer, her eyes narrowing. "Maybe I should just start charging you for the messes you make around here." Nia felt her heart race, her breath quickening. "I'm sorry," she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. She wanted to stand her ground, to fight back against the unfairness, but the fear of confrontation gripped her tightly. "Yeah, you should be," Sarah sneered, leaning in closer. "You're such a disappointment. I thought your parents raised you better." That was it. Something inside Nia snapped. For too long, she had kept her feelings bottled up, afraid of the consequences. But in that moment, a flicker of defiance ignited within her. "You don't get to talk to me like that," Nia shouted, surprising herself with the volume of her voice. The words echoed off the walls, startling Sarah momentarily. "What did you say?" Sarah's expression shifted, confusion giving way to anger. "You better watch your mouth, little girl. You don't want to mess with me." But Nia stood her ground. "You're the one who needs to watch how you treat people. I won't let you bully me anymore." For a moment, silence hung in the air between them, thick and heavy. Then, Sarah laughed, a cruel sound that sent chills down Nia's spine. "You think you can stand up to me? You're nothing. Just a scared little girl." Nia felt the tears welling in her eyes but blinked them back. "I'm not scared of you," she said, her voice steady despite the quaking of her heart. With that, she turned and fled to her room, slamming the door behind her. Her heart raced, a mix of adrenaline and fear coursing through her veins. Nia sank to the floor, her back against the door, breathing heavily as the realization of what she had done washed over her. It wasn't just a confrontation, it was the beginning of her fight. No longer would she allow Sarah to control her life, to dictate her worth. But as the moment of courage faded, a new fear took hold. What would happen next? Would Sarah retaliate? Would her parents ever understand? In that moment, Nia realized the battle ahead would be far from easy. But she was ready to face it, ready to confront the darkness that had lingered too long in her life. And as the tears fell, Nia vowed to herself that she would no longer remain silent. The truth was clawing its way to the surface, and she was determined to let it out. Nia spent the rest of the evening in her room, her heart racing from the confrontation. She replayed the scene in her mind, the anger and defiance coursing through her. It felt liberating, yet terrifying. Sarah's laughter echoed in her ears, a reminder of the power dynamics that existed between them. What would happen now? Would Sarah unleash her fury? The next morning, Nia woke up with a sense of trepidation. She glanced at the clock, 7 a.m., and quickly got dressed, her heart heavy with anxiety. As she brushed her hair, she couldn't shake the feeling that the storm was far from over. At breakfast, the atmosphere was unusually tense. Sarah sat across the table, her eyes narrowed, a smirk playing on her lips. "How was your night, Nia? Dreaming of standing up to me?" she teased, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Just eat your breakfast, Sarah," Nia muttered, refusing to rise to the bait. Her mother, busy flipping pancakes, glanced over but remained silent, unaware of the war brewing under her roof. As they headed to school, Nia's stomach twisted with anxiety. She had always dreaded Monday mornings, but this one felt different. With each step toward the school building, she could feel the weight of Sarah's impending retaliation. When the bell rang, Nia walked into her first period class, her heart pounding. She took her usual seat at the back, trying to blend into the background. The teacher droned on, but Nia's mind was elsewhere, consumed by thoughts of Sarah. Would she confront her in front of the class? But as the minutes ticked by, the anticipated drama didn't unfold. Nia began to relax, thinking maybe, just maybe, Sarah would let it go. That thought was short-lived. At lunchtime, as Nia sat with her friends, she felt a shift in the atmosphere. A group of girls, led by Sarah, sauntered over, their laughter cutting through the chatter. Nia's pulse quickened as they approached, a sense of dread settling in. Well, if it isn't Miss Tough Girl," Sarah sneered, her eyes glinting with malice. "What's wrong? Scared I'll tell everyone about your little meltdown yesterday?" Nia felt the color drain from her face. "You wouldn't," she said, her voice wavering despite her efforts to sound confident. "Wouldn't I?" Sarah's smirk widened as she leaned closer, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "I think everyone deserves to know how you really are, don't you?" The surrounding girls snickered, and Nia's stomach dropped. She could feel the heat rising to her cheeks as the humiliation washed over her. "I'm not afraid of you, Sarah. I won't let you bully me," Nia declared, hoping her voice would convey the bravery she was struggling to embody. "Ah, but this is different," Sarah taunted, glancing around to ensure she had an audience. "This is about reputation. Yours is about to take a nosedive. Just wait and see." With that, she turned on her heel, flanked by her followers, leaving Nia trembling at the table. Her friends glanced at her, concern etched on their faces. "Nia, are you okay?" Ava asked softly. I don't know," Nia stammered, feeling the weight of their eyes on her. "I thought standing up to her would help, but now I think I just made it worse." "Don't let her get to you," one of her friends said. "You're stronger than that." But as the days passed, Sarah's threat loomed over Nia like a dark cloud. The bullying escalated in subtle ways. Whispers filled the hallways, and Nia could feel the stares of her peers, their curiosity tinged with judgment. The support of her friends felt fragile, and she found herself retreating further into herself. One afternoon, after school, Nia's anxiety became too much to bear. She slipped into the library, seeking solace among the books. The quiet atmosphere calmed her racing heart, but even there, she felt the shadows of her worries creeping in. Just as she settled into a corner with a novel, she heard the unmistakable sound of laughter, Sarah's laughter, cutting through the silence. Nia's heart sank. She peeked over the edge of her book, spotting Sarah at a nearby table, surrounded by her group of friends. They were whispering and giggling, glancing in Nia's direction, and she could feel the weight of their stares. A surge of anger bubbled within her. Why was she letting Sarah control her emotions? Why was she letting this bully dictate her happiness? In that moment, Nia made a choice. She wouldn't be a victim. She would confront Sarah head-on and take back her power. With her heart pounding, she stood up, determination coursing through her. As she approached Sarah's table, she felt a mix of fear and resolve. She was tired of hiding, tired of letting fear dictate her life. "Sarah," Nia said, her voice steady despite the pounding in her chest. The laughter stopped, and all eyes turned toward her. "Can we talk? Just you and me? What's this? A little showdown?" Sarah said, her smirk returning. "You sure you want to do this?" "Yes, I do," Nia replied, feeling the strength of her words. "Let's step outside." The other girls exchanged glances, and Sarah hesitated, clearly caught off guard. But the challenge in Nia's eyes ignited a fire within her. "Fine," Sarah said, standing up and leading the way out of the library. As they stepped into the quiet hallway, Nia's heart raced. This was it, this was her moment. She had to make it count. "Why do you treat me like this?" Nia asked, her voice trembling but firm. "What do you get out of bullying me?" Sarah crossed her arms, a smirk still on her face. "You're just an easy target, Nia. You're so quiet, so pathetic. It's fun to see you squirm." "Fun?" Nia echoed, feeling her anger rise. "Do you think it's fun to make someone feel worthless? Because that's what you're doing. You're hurting me, and for what?" For a moment, silence hung between them, and Nia felt the weight of her words settle in. Sarah's expression shifted slightly, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. "Maybe you should toughen up," Sarah replied, her bravado wavering. "But you're right, it's not cool to keep doing this. I won't anymore, okay?" Nia's heart raced at the unexpected turn. "You won't?" she asked, skepticism lacing her voice. "No, I won't," Sarah said, her tone almost pleading. Just stay out of my way. It's easier that way." With that, Sarah turned and walked away, leaving Nia standing alone in the hallway, the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Nia had taken a stand. She felt a mix of relief and uncertainty. Would Sarah keep her word? Would the bullying finally end? As she walked back into the library, her heart still racing, Nia knew one thing for sure: she had confronted her bully, and for the first time, she felt a glimmer of hope. The following days were a whirlwind of emotions for Nia. Sarah's promise hung over her like a fragile truce, and while the bullying lessened, it hadn't vanished entirely. Nia felt like she was walking a tightrope, balancing on the thin line between hope and fear. At school, whispers still followed her. Some classmates were eager to hear the latest gossip, while others kept their distance, unsure of which side to take. But Nia was determined to focus on her studies and her friends, hoping to rebuild her confidence. In art class, her favorite sanctuary, Nia poured her feelings onto the canvas. Colors danced under her brush, each stroke a release of the pent-up frustration and fear that had haunted her. She found solace in the act of creation, letting her emotions flow freely. As she painted, her friend Ava joined her at the easel. "Wow, Nia! This is amazing! I love how vibrant it is," Ava exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with admiration. "Thanks," Nia said, a shy smile creeping onto her face. "I've just been feeling a lot lately." Ava nodded, her expression shifting to one of concern. "Do you want to talk about it? About Sarah?" Nia hesitated, the memory of their confrontation still fresh. "I confronted her, you know. I told her to stop bullying me." Ava's eyes widened. "You did? That's so brave, Nia." "I thought it would help, but it's still hard," Nia admitted, her fingers pausing on the brush. "I don't know if I can trust her not to start again." "You have every right to be cautious," Ava said. "But you're stronger than you think. You stood up for yourself, and that's a big deal." Nia felt a swell of gratitude for her friend's support. They continued to chat about their projects, the conversation lightening her mood. But as they left art class, Nia caught sight of Sarah at the other end of the hallway, laughing with her friends. A knot tightened in her stomach, the familiar anxiety creeping back in. Weeks passed, and the tension between Nia and Sarah shifted but didn't dissipate entirely. Sarah had made an effort to keep her distance, but her passive-aggressive comments lingered in the air. Nia could sense the undercurrents of resentment, and each encounter felt like a fragile peace treaty about to crumble. One afternoon, while Nia was sitting on a bench outside, scrolling through her phone, she noticed Sarah approaching with a group of girls. The sight sent a wave of apprehension washing over her. They looked like they were planning something, and Nia felt her heart race. "Nia, you're such a loser," one of Sarah's friends sneered as they neared. "Why do you even bother trying to fit in? Yeah, why don't you just stick to your painting and leave the real stuff to us?" Sarah added, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Nia gripped her phone tightly, fury igniting within her. "Why do you always have to put me down, Sarah? What's wrong with you?" "Oh, please," Sarah rolled her eyes, feigning innocence. "Can't you take a joke? You're just too sensitive." Nia felt the sting of humiliation rise within her. "It's not a joke when you're trying to hurt me. I thought we agreed to leave each other alone." A tense silence hung in the air as the girls exchanged glances. Nia's heart raced, she felt exposed and vulnerable. Then, unexpectedly, Sarah's smirk faltered, replaced by a flicker of annoyance. "Whatever. You're just mad because you're a nobody," Sarah shot back, her bravado faltering for the first time. Something inside Nia snapped. "I'm not a nobody. I'm worth more than your petty insults. I deserve respect." The words hung in the air, and Nia felt a sense of power surge through her. The shock on Sarah's face was palpable, and for a moment, Nia believed she might have broken through the wall of cruelty. But Sarah recovered quickly, her facade returning. "Keep dreaming, Nia. You think you can stand up to me? You're just making it worse for yourself." With that, she turned away, her friends giggling as they followed her. Nia stood frozen, breathing heavily, her heart pounding in her chest. She had fought back, but the victory felt hollow. The lingering threat of Sarah's return was a bitter reminder that the battle wasn't over. Later that evening, Nia sat in her room, staring at her latest painting, a stormy sky with vibrant colors colliding. It reflected her inner turmoil, the chaos of emotions swirling within her. She felt a mix of anger, fear, and determination. With a deep breath, she picked up her phone and texted Ava. "Can we talk? I need to figure out how to deal with Sarah." Ava responded almost immediately. "Of course. Let's meet at the park tomorrow after school. You've got this, Nia." The next day, as the sun began to set, Nia met Ava at the park. The vibrant hues of orange and pink painted the sky, mirroring her hopes for a brighter future. As they sat on a bench, Nia poured out her frustrations, her fears, and her aspirations. "I don't want to be afraid anymore," Nia confessed. "I want to stand up for myself, but I don't know how to make it stop." Ava listened attentively, nodding. "You're already doing it, Nia. You're not backing down, and that takes courage. Maybe it's time to involve someone else, like a teacher or counselor. You deserve support. Nia considered the idea, the weight of it settling in. You think they'll help? I know they will. You're not alone in this, Ava reassured her. There are people who care about you and want to help. As they continued to talk, Nia felt a glimmer of hope igniting within her. The road ahead would be challenging, but she knew she had the strength to confront her fears and seek help. With newfound resolve, she decided that it was time to take a stand, not just for herself but for all those who had suffered in silence. She would not let fear dictate her life any longer. The morning after her conversation with Ava, Nia felt a renewed sense of purpose. As she walked into school, the familiar hallways felt different, charged with an energy she hadn't experienced before. The whispers still echoed, but she was no longer afraid. Today would mark the beginning of her journey toward reclaiming her confidence. She headed to the guidance counselor's office, her heart pounding with a mixture of anxiety and determination. Ms. Lewis was known for her kind demeanor and open-door policy, and Nia had heard from others that she was supportive and understanding. As she entered the office, the soft scent of lavender filled the air, calming her nerves just a bit. Ms. Lewis looked up from her desk, her warm smile instantly putting Nia at ease. Good morning, Nia. What brings you here today? Ms. Lewis asked, her voice gentle. Nia took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts. I'm dealing with some bullying at school, and I need help figuring out what to do. Ms. Lewis's expression turned serious. I'm glad you came to me. It's really important to talk about these things. Can you tell me more about what's been happening? As Nia recounted her experiences with Sarah, she felt a weight lifting off her shoulders. The act of speaking her truth made her feel lighter, as if each word stripped away the layers of fear that had built up inside her. I've tried standing up for myself, but it doesn't seem to work. I just feel like I'm constantly under attack, Nia admitted, her voice quivering with emotion. Ms. Lewis listened intently, nodding. I'm so sorry you're going through this. You're very brave for coming here and speaking up. You deserve to feel safe and supported at school. Would you like to come up with a plan to address the bullying? Yes, please, Nia replied, hope flickering in her chest. Together, they brainstormed strategies for dealing with Sarah and the other bullies. Ms. Lewis encouraged Nia to document incidents of bullying and consider involving her teachers in the conversation. They discussed the possibility of starting a support group for students who had experienced similar issues, creating a safe space for open dialogue. Remember, Nia, you're not alone in this, Ms. Lewis said. There are people who want to help you, and you can make a difference not only for yourself but for others as well. As Nia left the counselor's office, a sense of empowerment surged within her. She felt more prepared to confront the challenges ahead and hopeful that her situation could improve. During lunch, she shared her plans with Ava and a few other friends, who expressed their support and enthusiasm. We should totally start that support group. Ava exclaimed. I think it could help so many people. With a plan in place, Nia felt a renewed sense of purpose. She decided to approach her teachers about the support group the following day, eager to create a positive change in her school environment. The next morning, she gathered her courage and approached Mr. Thompson, her history teacher. He had always been approachable and had a reputation for being fair and compassionate. Mr. Thompson, can I talk to you about something important? Nia asked, her heart racing. Of course, Nia. What's on your mind? He replied, his attention fully on her. Nia took a deep breath, then began to explain the situation with Sarah and her desire to start a support group for students affected by bullying. As she spoke, Mr. Thompson listened attentively, nodding in understanding. This is a great initiative, Nia. I'm proud of you for wanting to take a stand. I'd be happy to help you get started, he said with a reassuring smile. We can set up a meeting to discuss this further and see how we can promote it in the school. Nia felt a rush of gratitude wash over her. "Thank you so much, Mr. Thompson. It means a lot to have your support." As the days passed, Nia and her friends worked diligently to organize the first meeting for the support group. They created posters and spread the word throughout the school, encouraging students to come and share their experiences. The anticipation was both exhilarating and terrifying. On the day of the first meeting, Nia arrived early, her stomach a whirlwind of nerves and excitement. The room was filled with chairs arranged in a circle, and she hoped that others would show up. When the bell rang, students began to filter in, some looking curious, others apprehensive. Nia recognized a few familiar faces, classmates who had also endured bullying. As the last few students settled in, Nia felt a sense of camaraderie in the air. "Thank you all for coming," Nia began, her voice trembling but gaining strength. "I know that talking about this can be difficult, but we're here to support one another. This is a safe space for everyone to share their stories." As she looked around the room, Nia noticed the varied expressions on her classmates' faces: relief, fear, and hope. One by one, students began to share their experiences, and Nia felt a powerful connection forming among them. As the meeting progressed, the stories shared were both heartbreaking and inspiring. Students spoke about their struggles with bullying, the toll it took on their mental health, and the impact of feeling isolated. Nia listened intently, her heart aching for her peers while also feeling a sense of solidarity. In that moment, she realized they were all fighting similar battles, and together, they could create a supportive community. Nia felt the fear that had once consumed her slowly begin to dissipate. The meeting ended on a hopeful note, with everyone agreeing to meet again the following week. As they filed out, students lingered, exchanging phone numbers and promising to keep in touch. Nia felt a warmth spreading in her chest, the feeling of belonging finally emerging after so long. With her friends by her side and a supportive group forming around her, Nia knew she was no longer alone. She had taken the first step in not just standing up for herself but also advocating for change within her school community. The following week, Nia felt a sense of anticipation as she walked into school. The support group had been a success, and the buzz among her classmates was palpable. They shared stories of resilience, and for the first time, Nia felt like she was part of something greater than herself. But lurking beneath that sense of belonging was an undercurrent of anxiety. She knew she would have to face Sarah again. As the school day unfolded, Nia couldn't shake the feeling of dread. She spotted Sarah in the cafeteria, surrounded by her usual group of friends, laughter erupting like gunfire. Nia's heart raced. This was the moment she'd been dreading, but also the moment she knew she needed to confront. "Are you okay?" Ava asked, noticing Nia's tense demeanor. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "I'm just thinking about what happened last time," Nia admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm not sure I'm ready to face her again." "You've got this," Ava encouraged, placing a reassuring hand on Nia's shoulder. "Remember what we talked about in the support group. You're not alone anymore." Taking a deep breath, Nia nodded, trying to channel the strength she had felt during their last meeting. She knew that standing up for herself wasn't just about confronting Sarah, it was about proving to herself that she was worthy of respect. After lunch, Nia found herself walking down the hallway toward her next class. As she approached, she saw Sarah standing near the lockers with a couple of her friends. Time seemed to slow down as she approached, and every instinct screamed at her to turn around and retreat. But Nia remembered the faces of her classmates in the support group, their courage giving her strength. "Hey, Nia!" Sarah called out, her voice dripping with mockery. "How's the little support group going? Still trying to get people to feel sorry for you?" Nia felt her heart racing, but she refused to let Sarah's taunts shake her. She took a step closer, grounding herself in the moment. "Actually, it's going really well. We're helping each other find our voices and stand up to bullies like you." The words hung in the air, and a flicker of surprise crossed Sarah's face. Her friends exchanged glances, unsure of how to react. Nia took a deep breath, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. "I'm tired of being bullied," Nia continued, her voice steady. "And I'm not going to let you or anyone else make me feel small anymore." Sarah's expression hardened, and she stepped closer, narrowing the distance between them. "Oh, please. You think your little group is going to change anything? You're still the same loser you've always been." Nia felt anger bubbling inside her but fought to keep her composure. "You don't know anything about me. You only see what you want to see. But I know my worth, and I won't let you take that away from me." A tense silence enveloped them, the other students watching with bated breath. Nia could feel her pulse racing, adrenaline coursing through her veins. It was exhilarating and terrifying at the same time. "Whatever," Sarah finally scoffed, her bravado faltering. "You think you're so tough, but you're just a wannabe." With that, Sarah turned and walked away, her friends following her lead. Nia stood rooted to the spot, her heart pounding. She had faced Sarah and spoken her truth, something she had never thought possible. As she walked to class, a wave of relief washed over her. It wasn't a perfect victory, but she had stood up for herself, and it felt liberating. The support group had given her the tools to confront her fears, and she knew she wouldn't back down. Later that afternoon, Nia received a message on her phone. It was from Mia, one of the students who had attended the support group meeting. "Hey, Nia. I just wanted to say how proud I am of you for standing up to Sarah. You inspired me to be brave, too. Can't wait for our next meeting." Nia's heart swelled with gratitude. She responded quickly, her fingers flying across the screen. "Thanks, Mia. It means a lot to me. Together, we're making a difference." The next day, Nia arrived at school with a renewed sense of determination. She and Ava spent lunch preparing for their upcoming support group meeting, creating flyers and discussing how they could promote it further. As they gathered around a table in the cafeteria, Nia spotted Sarah entering the room. This time, instead of feeling fear, she felt a strange sense of calm. She had already confronted Sarah once, and while it hadn't been easy, it had empowered her. "Are you okay?" Ava asked, noticing Nia's gaze. "Yeah, I'm good. Just ready for whatever comes next," Nia replied, her voice steady. Ava smiled, her eyes filled with encouragement. "You're amazing, Nia. No matter what happens, we've got each other's backs." That afternoon, Nia took the lead during the support group meeting, encouraging her peers to share their experiences. As she spoke about her confrontation with Sarah, the room filled with energy and support. "I realized that standing up for myself was the first step in taking back my power," Nia said, looking around the circle. "We can all do this together." The group erupted in applause, and Nia felt a wave of joy wash over her. She had found her voice, and it resonated with others. As they continued to share their stories, Nia felt a bond forming among them, one that transcended their individual struggles. The days following Nia's confrontation with Sarah felt transformative. Her courage had ignited a spark within her classmates, and word of the support group spread like wildfire throughout the school. Nia found herself inundated with messages from students eager to join their next meeting, each one expressing their gratitude for the safe space they were creating together. A week later, the group convened again in the school library. This time, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation. More students filled the room than ever before, each sharing their own stories of prejudice and bullying. Nia felt a mix of pride and responsibility as she took her place at the front, ready to guide the discussion. "Welcome, everyone. I'm so glad to see so many new faces here today," Nia began, her voice steady. "This is a space where we can share our experiences without judgment and support one another as we navigate the challenges we face." As students took turns sharing their stories, Nia listened intently. Each account painted a vivid picture of the struggles they had endured. Some spoke of isolation, others of fear, and many of the anger that stemmed from feeling powerless. One student, Liam, spoke up with a quiver in his voice. I've been bullied for my accent ever since I moved here. It's made me feel like I don't belong. I get that, another student chimed in. I was bullied for my skin color, and it felt like I had to prove myself every day. But we shouldn't have to fight this battle alone. Nia felt a surge of empathy for her classmates. They were sharing their vulnerabilities, revealing the scars that had shaped them. She realized that their experiences were all connected, bound by the common thread of racism and prejudice. Thank you for sharing, Liam, Nia said, her heart full. You're not alone in this. Together, we can make a difference, not just in our school, but in our community. With each passing week, the support group grew in numbers and strength. Nia and Ava began planning a school-wide assembly, determined to raise awareness about bullying and racism. They hoped to create a platform where students could share their stories and advocate for change. As they mapped out their ideas, Nia felt a sense of purpose washing over her. This wasn't just about her anymore, it was about creating a legacy of empowerment and solidarity. Let's invite teachers and parents too, Ava suggested. We need everyone to understand the impact of what we're going through. Nia nodded, her excitement bubbling over. And we can include resources for anyone who needs help. We should also talk about how to stand up to bullies. As the assembly day approached, nerves began to creep in. The thought of speaking in front of the entire school was daunting. But Nia reminded herself of how far she had come, of the strength she had found within herself and through her peers. On the day of the assembly, the gym buzzed with chatter and laughter as students filled the bleachers. Nia's heart raced as she and Ava stood backstage, peering out at the crowd. Are you ready? Ava asked, a mixture of excitement and anxiety in her eyes. I think so, Nia replied, her palms clammy. We've worked hard for this. We can't let fear stop us now. When the principal called them to the stage, Nia felt a rush of adrenaline. Together, they walked out, the bright lights shining down on them. The murmurs quieted, and all eyes turned toward the two girls. Hello, everyone, Nia began, her voice steady despite the fluttering in her stomach. Today, we want to talk about something that affects many of us, bullying and racism. The room fell silent, the weight of her words hanging in the air. We are here to share our experiences and to remind everyone that no one should feel alone or powerless. As Nia spoke, she felt the energy in the room shift. She shared her own story, how she had been bullied and the moment she decided to stand up for herself. The words flowed from her like a river, each syllable imbued with the passion she felt for her cause. Ava followed, sharing her story about feeling ostracized for her beliefs and how the support group had empowered her. Together, we can create a culture of acceptance and kindness, she urged. It starts with each of us choosing to stand up and speak out. The audience listened intently, their expressions a mix of empathy and reflection. Nia could see students exchanging glances, and for the first time, it felt like they were all in this together. After the assembly, Nia and Ava were inundated with students expressing their gratitude. Thank you for sharing your story, one girl said, her voice shaking. It really helped me understand that I'm not alone. It's inspiring to see so many people want to make a change, another student added. As the weeks rolled on, the support group flourished, and the message of unity spread throughout the school. The assembly had created a ripple effect, prompting discussions in classrooms and at home about the importance of standing up against bullying and racism. Nia felt a sense of belonging that she had longed for, her heart swelling with hope. She realized that this journey wasn't just about her, it was about every student who had ever felt marginalized, and she was committed to amplifying their voices. In the following weeks, they organized events, collaborated with teachers, and even invited local activists to share their experiences. Each step forward brought them closer to their goal of creating a more inclusive school environment. Nia had found her place as a leader, not just for herself but for all those who felt voiceless. As she watched her peers rally around their cause, she felt an overwhelming sense of purpose. In that moment, she understood that together, they could create change that extended far beyond the walls of their school. They were no longer just students, they were allies in a movement for justice and equality. As the days turned into weeks, the momentum of their movement began to swell. The support group thrived, and Nia's assembly had sparked meaningful discussions among students and teachers alike. But with this growing visibility came an unexpected and unwelcome backlash. One afternoon, Nia and Ava were hanging out in the cafeteria, reviewing plans for their next event, a diversity fair designed to celebrate the different cultures represented in their school. The excitement in the air was palpable as they brainstormed ideas and set a date. Imagine the different booths we could have. We could showcase food, music, and traditions from around the world, Ava said, her eyes lighting up. Exactly. It would be a great way to bring everyone together, Nia replied, her enthusiasm bubbling over. But just as she spoke, a shadow loomed over their table. What's this? A cultural fair? Sarah, the girl who had confronted Nia at the start of the year, sneered, flanked by her friends, Brianna and Kate. Are you really trying to make this place more diverse? Like that's going to work? Nia felt her stomach drop as Sarah leaned over the table, her voice dripping with sarcasm. You really think people want to hear about other cultures? Who cares about that? Ava shot Nia a concerned look, but Nia steeled herself. We believe that celebrating diversity is important. Everyone should feel included and valued. Oh please, Sarah scoffed, crossing her arms. You think you're making a difference, but all you're doing is pushing your agenda. Not everyone is on board with your little crusade. Nia's heart raced as the words hung heavy in the air. We're just trying to create a space for everyone to feel welcome. Yeah, right. You're just going to create more divisions. Some people are just fine with things the way they are, Sarah retorted, her voice rising. With that, she turned on her heel, her friends following suit, laughter trailing behind them like a toxic cloud. Nia felt a wave of anger wash over her, followed by disappointment. How could someone be so blind to the beauty of diversity? What a jerk, Ava muttered, shaking her head. Don't let her get to you. We're doing something good here. I know, Nia replied, though her confidence wavered. But it's hard when people like Sarah don't understand what we're trying to do. It's like they want to keep everything the same, even if it means excluding others. Ava placed a reassuring hand on Nia's shoulder. We just need to keep pushing forward. There will always be people who resist change, but that doesn't mean we should stop. Determined, Nia focused on their upcoming diversity fair. They worked tirelessly, enlisting the help of students from various backgrounds, each eager to share their culture. As the event drew near, anticipation filled the hallways. However, not everyone was on board. Whispers circulated about the fair, and Nia sensed an undercurrent of resentment brewing among certain students. On the day of the fair, the gym was transformed into a vibrant celebration of cultures. Colorful flags hung from the ceiling, and tables were adorned with traditional foods, crafts, and information about different countries. Nia's heart swelled with pride as she watched students mingle, sampling dishes and sharing stories. But the joy was short-lived. As the fair progressed, Nia noticed a group of students huddled in a corner, their expressions dark and scornful. Among them was Sarah, her arms crossed defiantly as she glared at the festivities. Suddenly, Sarah strode toward the center of the gym, her voice cutting through the laughter and chatter. You all think this is great. You think pretending to celebrate diversity is going to change anything? You're just making a mockery of our school. Nia's heart sank. She felt the atmosphere shift, the joy evaporating as tension filled the air. This isn't a joke, Sarah, Nia said, her voice steady but trembling. This is about understanding and acceptance. Oh, please, Sarah shot back, her voice dripping with disdain. You're just trying to make yourself feel better about your issues. Nia felt anger bubbling beneath the surface, but she forced herself to remain calm. No one is saying that. We're trying to create a community where everyone feels respected. A small murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, but Sarah didn't back down. You want respect? How about you earn it by not shoving your beliefs down everyone's throat? Before Nia could respond, one of Sarah's friends piped up. Yeah. This is our school too, and we're tired of you acting like you're better than everyone else. Nia felt a pang of hurt. We're not trying to be better. We just want to share and learn from each other. The tension in the gym was palpable as students exchanged uneasy glances. Nia's heart raced as she searched for the right words, feeling the weight of every gaze upon her. We all belong here, and we should celebrate our differences rather than tear each other down. With that, she stepped back, her throat dry as she awaited a response. The crowd seemed to hold its breath, the atmosphere thick with uncertainty. Finally, one student from the back shouted, "Let's just enjoy the fair. We can celebrate our differences without fighting." A ripple of murmurs followed, students nodding in agreement. Nia felt hope flicker within her. Perhaps, just perhaps, they could bridge this divide. Sarah's face flushed with frustration, and after a moment of hesitation, she spun on her heel, marching back to her group. The tension in the room began to dissipate, and conversations resumed, though the atmosphere remained tense. Nia stood with Ava, their hearts racing from the confrontation. That was intense, Ava whispered, her eyes wide. Yeah, but I think we held our ground, Nia replied, her voice barely above a whisper. As the fair continued, Nia reminded herself that change wasn't easy. There would always be those who resisted it. But in that moment, she felt the strength of the community they were building together, and it fueled her resolve. Later that evening, as the fair wound down and students began to filter out, Nia reflected on the day's events. Despite the backlash, they had created something meaningful. Walking home, she felt a sense of pride swell within her. The diversity fair had not only celebrated the cultures of her classmates, but it had also sparked important conversations about acceptance and understanding. Nia understood that this journey was far from over, but she was committed to continuing the fight for a more inclusive environment. As she reached home, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. Together with her friends, they would stand strong against prejudice, no matter the cost. The days following the diversity fair were a whirlwind of emotions for Nia. While the event had been a success, the backlash from Sarah and her friends lingered like a dark cloud. The school atmosphere felt charged with tension, whispers of dissent hung in the air, making Nia acutely aware of the divisions in their community. One day, as Nia walked to her locker, she overheard a conversation between two boys from her history class. "Did you see how Nia and Ava were all up in everyone's face during that fair?" one of them said, chuckling. "What a joke. They think they can change the world just by throwing a party." Nia's heart sank, but she refused to let their words deter her. Instead, she focused on her goal of fostering a sense of belonging among her peers. That evening, she sat down with Ava to brainstorm their next steps. "We can't let this get to us," Ava said, determination etched on her face. "We need to keep pushing forward. How about organizing a follow-up event? Something that brings everyone together." Nia's eyes lit up with inspiration. "What if we host a series of workshops? We can cover topics like cultural awareness, empathy, and communication. It could provide a platform for open discussions and help bridge some of these divides." Ava nodded enthusiastically. "Yes. And we can invite guest speakers, teachers, community leaders, anyone who can share their experiences. This could really make a difference." With renewed energy, they set to work. They drafted a proposal outlining their vision and presented it to their principal, who surprisingly expressed support for their initiative. "I think this is a wonderful idea, girls," he said, his eyes gleaming with encouragement. "I believe fostering dialogue is essential for our school community." The following weeks were a blur of planning and coordination. Nia and Ava reached out to teachers and community members, gathering a diverse roster of speakers willing to share their stories. As word spread, more students began to show interest, and a few even approached Nia to express their desire to help. One afternoon, as they were setting up for their first workshop, Nia spotted Sarah lurking at the edge of the gym, arms crossed and a frown etched on her face. Anxiety bubbled in Nia's stomach, but she reminded herself of the purpose behind their efforts. "Hey, Nia," a girl named Rebecca, who had joined their planning committee, called out. "Look who decided to show up." Nia turned to see Sarah stepping forward hesitantly, a guarded expression on her face. I wanted to see what you guys are doing," she said, her voice surprisingly soft. Nia was taken aback. "Oh. Well, we're organizing workshops on diversity and inclusion. Would you like to join?" Sarah shifted her weight, clearly uncertain. "I don't know. I mean, I just thought, maybe it could be interesting." Ava exchanged a glance with Nia, and they both sensed a shift. "You're welcome to join us," Nia replied, trying to keep her tone neutral. "We want everyone's voice to be heard." With a hesitant nod, Sarah stepped closer, and Nia felt a flicker of hope. Maybe there was a chance for understanding after all. The first workshop was a resounding success. Nia and Ava facilitated discussions that encouraged students to share their experiences and perspectives. Guest speakers shared their personal stories, shedding light on the importance of empathy and understanding. As the workshop progressed, Nia watched as students began to engage with each other in ways she hadn't seen before. Some shared laughter, while others opened up about their struggles. It was a beautiful sight, and Nia's heart swelled with pride. As the session came to a close, Nia invited everyone to share their thoughts. To her surprise, Sarah stood up, her voice trembling but resolute. "I never thought I'd say this, but I get it now. I've been so focused on my own experiences that I didn't even consider what others might be going through. I want to be part of the solution." Nia's breath caught in her throat. This was a turning point. Sarah's admission resonated with many, and applause erupted in the room. Nia felt a wave of gratitude wash over her, perhaps they were making a real impact after all. The following workshops continued to thrive, and Sarah became a surprising ally, collaborating with Nia and Ava to promote upcoming sessions. As the group worked together, they began to bond, and Nia found herself appreciating Sarah's perspective, even as she still struggled with some of her previous comments. As the weeks rolled on, their initiatives began to yield tangible results. Students who had once been divided started to engage with one another, forming friendships that transcended the barriers of background and experience. The school felt more alive, more connected, and Nia could sense that they were shifting the narrative. Yet, as Nia reveled in this newfound unity, she couldn't shake the feeling that challenges lay ahead. Change was often met with resistance, and she knew that not everyone was on board with their efforts. One afternoon, while preparing for their next workshop, Nia overheard a heated conversation between a group of students outside the gym. "This is ridiculous. Why should we have to listen to these people talk about their problems? It's not our fault," one of them exclaimed. Nia felt her stomach churn as she recognized one of the voices as Jake, a student known for his outspoken opinions. He had always been a staunch opponent of discussions about race and diversity. "It's just a bunch of whining. They need to toughen up instead of crying about everything," another voice chimed in, and Nia felt a chill run down her spine. Determined to address this head-on, Nia stepped outside and confronted them. "What's going on here?" she asked, her heart pounding. Jake turned to her, a smirk on his face. "Oh, nothing. Just talking about how pointless this whole diversity thing is. We don't need lectures on how to feel sorry for everyone." Nia felt a surge of anger. This isn't about feeling sorry for anyone. It's about understanding and supporting each other. We can't move forward if we ignore the struggles that people face. The group exchanged glances, clearly taken aback by her boldness. "You think you're making a difference, but all you're doing is making things worse," Jake shot back. With every ounce of courage, Nia responded, We're trying to create a community where everyone feels valued. What's so wrong with that? The tension in the air crackled as Nia stood her ground, and slowly, more students began to gather around, drawn in by the confrontation. It was a defining moment, and Nia sensed that the tide was turning, but she wasn't sure how it would unfold. The tension in the school was palpable, especially after Nia confronted Jake and his friends. Whispers circulated in the halls, and the conversations shifted from excitement about the workshops to debates about the value of Nia and Ava's initiatives. Some students rallied around their cause, while others remained skeptical or outright hostile. In the days that followed, Nia noticed a stark divide forming among the students. The cafeteria buzzed with conversations, but the chatter was often filled with harsh criticism of their efforts. The backlash became personal, with anonymous notes slipped into lockers and snide comments exchanged in hallways. As Nia walked into the cafeteria one day, she overheard a table of students snickering. "Did you hear? They're holding another workshop. Bet it'll be just as boring as the last one boy said, eliciting laughter from his friends. Nia's heart sank. It felt like the ground beneath her was crumbling. Despite the positive feedback they had received from many, the vitriol from Jake's side was starting to feel overwhelming. That afternoon, she and Ava met to discuss the growing negativity. They sat at a table in the library, surrounded by stacks of books, trying to brainstorm solutions. "I feel like we're making progress, but the backlash is getting worse," Nia admitted, her brow furrowed with concern. "What if people just don't want to change? What if we're fighting a losing battle?" Ava shook her head firmly. "We can't think like that. Change takes time, and it's never easy. Remember why we started this in the first place. We have to keep pushing forward, even if it feels tough." Nia nodded, though doubt gnawed at her. "But how do we address the negativity? We can't ignore it." Just then, their friend Malik, who had been quietly listening, spoke up. "What if we invite Jake and his friends to a workshop? Let them voice their opinions in a safe space. It might help bridge the gap." The idea hung in the air, heavy with possibility and risk. "Are you serious?" Nia asked, her eyes wide. "They've been nothing but disrespectful." "I know, but maybe they just need to be heard," Malik suggested. "This could be a chance for dialogue, not just confrontation. If they see that we're open to listening, it might change things." Nia considered this. It was a gamble, but perhaps it was worth it. "Okay, let's do it. But we have to be prepared for anything." With their plan set, they approached Jake and his friends after school the next day. The group was lounging near the basketball courts, tossing a ball back and forth. As Nia and Ava walked up, Jake's eyes narrowed. "What do you want?" he asked, a hint of mockery in his tone. Nia took a deep breath. "We want to invite you to our next workshop. We think it would be valuable for everyone to share their perspectives, including yours." Jake exchanged a glance with his friends, a skeptical smirk spreading across his face. "What, so we can sit around and listen to you whine about how hard life is for everyone else?" Ava stepped forward, trying to remain calm. "No, it's about having an honest discussion. We want to hear your thoughts and experiences too. It's an opportunity to talk about what you believe and why." For a moment, Jake seemed taken aback. The tension hung in the air, and Nia could see the wheels turning in his mind. "Fine. I'll think about it," he finally said, tossing the basketball to one of his friends. "But don't expect me to sit there and play nice." As they walked away, Nia felt a mix of anxiety and hope. This was a step forward, but it was only the beginning. When the day of the workshop arrived, Nia's stomach churned with nerves. They had prepared the room, arranging chairs in a circle to encourage open dialogue. Nia stood at the front, scanning the faces of students as they trickled in. The atmosphere felt electric, a mix of anticipation and apprehension. As the clock ticked closer to the start time, Nia caught sight of Jake entering with a couple of his friends. They sauntered in, casual but with an air of defiance that made Nia's heart race. "Great," she muttered under her breath, "just what we need." The workshop began with Nia and Ava setting the tone, emphasizing the importance of respect and understanding. They opened the floor to everyone, inviting students to share their thoughts on diversity and inclusion. When it was Jake's turn, he leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "I still don't get what all the fuss is about," he began, his voice laced with skepticism. "Why should we have to listen to everyone's problems? It's not our fault if they're struggling." Nia felt a rush of frustration but reminded herself of their mission. It's not about blaming anyone. It's about recognizing that we all come from different backgrounds and experiences. Understanding those differences is crucial for building a community. "Maybe," Jake replied, "but it just feels like everyone's looking for a reason to complain." "That's not it at all," Ava interjected. "It's about sharing experiences so we can learn from each other. No one is trying to complain, we're trying to connect." The conversation shifted back and forth, with other students chiming in, offering their perspectives. Some echoed Jake's sentiments, while others passionately advocated for understanding and empathy. Tensions rose as opposing views clashed, and Nia sensed the workshop teetering on the brink of chaos. Suddenly, a girl named Emily, usually quiet, stood up. "Why is it so hard for some of you to just listen? You don't have to agree with everything, but can't we at least try to understand where each other is coming from?" The room fell silent, and Nia felt a wave of gratitude for Emily's bravery. It was a moment of clarity, cutting through the noise. As the conversation continued, Nia could see Jake's expression shift. He leaned forward, listening more intently, as if he were finally beginning to grapple with the complexities of the discussion. After what felt like hours, Nia noticed a change in the atmosphere. The dialogue became more constructive, with students respectfully challenging each other's viewpoints. It was messy but productive, a true representation of their diverse school. By the end of the session, while not everyone had reached a consensus, Nia felt a glimmer of hope. The seeds of understanding were planted, and perhaps, just perhaps, they were making strides toward building a more inclusive community. As students filed out, Nia caught Jake's eye. He approached her, a slight smile on his face. "I didn't expect that," he admitted. "I guess I just thought it'd be another boring lecture. Maybe it wasn't so bad after all." Nia smiled back, her heart swelling with cautious optimism. "Thanks for coming, Jake. I hope you'll join us again." "I might," he replied, then turned to leave. "But don't expect me to go easy on you next time." Nia laughed lightly, knowing that was a challenge she was ready to embrace. The aftermath of the workshop reverberated through the school in ways Nia hadn't anticipated. While some students remained skeptical, many began to engage more openly in conversations about race and identity. Nia watched as the discussions evolved, creating a ripple effect that reached beyond her small circle of friends. As the weeks passed, Nia and Ava organized more workshops, each one drawing in a slightly larger crowd. They focused on different themes: understanding privilege, combating stereotypes, and celebrating cultural heritage. It was exhilarating, yet exhausting. Nia felt like she was constantly on the verge of a breakthrough or a breakdown. Then one afternoon, just as Nia was preparing for the next workshop, she received a message from an unexpected source: Jake. His text read, "Can we talk?" Nia hesitated but ultimately agreed to meet him in the school library after classes. When she arrived, Jake was already seated at a table, looking unusually serious. He fiddled with a pencil, a look of contemplation etched across his face. "Hey," Nia said, sitting down across from him. "What's up?" Jake looked up, his expression a mix of determination and vulnerability. "I've been thinking a lot about what we talked about in the workshop. I guess I've realized I've been kind of a jerk about all this." Nia raised an eyebrow, surprised. "What do you mean?" "I thought it was just a bunch of whining. But after hearing some of the stories from other students, I started to see things differently. It's not just about me or my friends, it's about everyone. Wow, that's a big step, Nia replied cautiously. What changed your mind? He shrugged, a hint of embarrassment creeping into his demeanor. I guess I just realized that everyone has their own struggles. I don't want to be that guy anymore, the one who makes everything harder for others. Nia felt a swell of hope but remained guarded. That's really good to hear, Jake. So, what do you want to do about it? I want to help, he said, his eyes brightening. I was thinking maybe I could help with the next workshop. I know I can't fix everything, but I want to do something constructive. Are you serious? Nia's heart raced at the prospect. That could make a huge difference. Yeah, Jake continued, enthusiasm creeping into his voice. I mean, I can't promise I'll have all the right answers, but I want to learn and be part of the solution. Nia smiled, feeling a surge of encouragement. I think that's a fantastic idea. We could use your perspective to reach more students. It might help others see that change is possible. They spent the next hour brainstorming ideas for the workshop, focusing on how to engage students who still felt disconnected from the discussions. The collaboration between them was electric, filled with newfound respect and mutual understanding. It felt surreal to think that just weeks ago, they had been on opposing sides. As the date of the workshop approached, word began to spread about Jake's involvement. Some students expressed skepticism, while others were eager to see how it would unfold. Nia felt nervous but also exhilarated. This was a chance for real change. On the day of the workshop, the atmosphere in the school was charged. Students filled the auditorium, and Nia could feel the weight of their expectations. She stood backstage with Jake, who seemed equally anxious. Just remember, it's okay if things get heated, Nia said, trying to reassure him. We're here to have an honest conversation. I know, he replied, running a hand through his hair. I just hope I can contribute something meaningful. You will, she assured him. Just speak from the heart. When they stepped onto the stage, a murmur of curiosity rippled through the audience. Nia introduced Jake, emphasizing his willingness to engage in difficult conversations. The initial tension melted away as Jake began to share his perspective, opening up about his own misconceptions and the journey he had taken to get to this point. As the discussion progressed, students began to share their experiences, and the conversation flowed organically. They challenged each other, debated, and ultimately found common ground. It was a cathartic release, allowing students to express frustrations, hopes, and desires for a better future together. By the end of the workshop, Nia felt a wave of gratitude. They had transformed a space of division into one of collaboration and understanding. The applause that followed was louder than any she had heard before, filled with appreciation and recognition of their efforts. As the audience began to disperse, Nia caught sight of Jake, who was surrounded by a group of students eager to continue the conversation. He had found his place, and she couldn't help but smile at the transformation unfolding before her. Hey! Ava called out, joining Nia as they watched the scene unfold. That was amazing. I can't believe how far we've come. Me neither, Nia said, her heart swelling with pride. It feels like we're finally making a real impact. As they left the auditorium, Nia felt a profound sense of accomplishment. They had faced challenges, pushed through resistance, and opened doors to understanding. It was only the beginning, but it was a turning point, a moment that signified hope and possibility for their school community.